what if they don't like me based on what I say or like my opinions and stuff? And so like it's not about opinions, right? It's about the fact that you're sharing the gospel and that you're getting it out there.
When you're sharing like the real things that you've been
Yeah.
through, the questions you've had,
Yes.
that will be so much better.
Welcome to the Telos podcast. You made it.
Yeah.
You guys are here. Thank you for being here. Y'all feeling all right?
Mhm.
You feeling good? Today, we are going to have a quick conversation about what it looks like to help Gen Z and Gen Alpha normalize gospel conversations. How can we help those people who are close to us have conversations with their friends, with their family members, with their coworkers,
Right.
with their neighbors about Jesus? And so we're going to spend some time today chopping it up about that. And I want to start sort of in a unique way because I think that as I think about working in the church and as I think about just being a person in the world, I'm constantly interacting with people of different generations. Now, at school, you're acting with most people your age, but when you're out in the community, when you're with your parents, at the grocery store, at the games, you're interacting with people from all different stages and walks of life. And something I like to think about is the fact that all of these different generations of people, they each bring something unique to the table when it comes to the church and when it comes to faith. We're all different, and we have our own unique preferences and gifts and skills. And so I want to talk first and foremost about the strengths that your generation brings to the table,
Yeah.
specifically when we're talking about faith and Christianity. And so I want to open this up, but what do you think is one of the greatest strengths of your generation when it comes to your faith and the gifts that you guys bring to the body of Christ and to the world? What do you think?
I'll go first.
Yeah, let's go.
I think the way that we're just like able to use technology and the way that we're able to talk to so many people at, different times, or like we can talk to people across the world within
Yeah.
like seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, it just makes it so much easier not easier, but there's more opportunity to me to be able to talk with those people and to just share the gospel that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, social media.
Yeah.
You can use like
Social
hashtags,
media.
get in the community.
Yeah.
The
I like that.
opportunities for that are just
Yeah.
endless. Yeah.
I think through that, like networking, like we're really good at that. I feel like that's something like that we're like taught a lot in schools too, like especially like Gen Z, and something that we focus on a lot, whether it's in our careers or like in our faith, is like networking to other people, like meeting new people, making those connections, and like really just like harping in on that. And
Yeah. Absolutely.
I agree with that. Meeting new people that we wouldn't normally get the opportunity to talk to
Yeah.
or reach out to or notice
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
lead to a lot of important conversations.
For sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would I'd like to add to him, like, like posting a TikTok, like posting on your story on a Snapchat, like that little post can do something,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got to ask another question here to this, because pretty much every single person here has said technology, social media,
Right,
TikTok, it's
right.
networking,
Right.
it's connection. You can get into gaming. I mean, like, there's so many different angles to this. At the end of the day, it's reaching people and connecting with people that without this medium, you would have probably never had the chance to interact with those
Right.
people. What like specific benefits does that bring when we're talking about faith specifically? Like, you're talking about like, hey, you could post a TikTok about reading the Bible or like verse of the day or whatever it is, and it can get out there into exposing people that normally wouldn't have been able to see that. But do you have any other thoughts on like the power that you have in your phone or in an Xbox or in a computer, and how that specifically relates to like helping other teenagers share their faith, if that makes sense?
I mean, it's just like a snowball effect sometimes, cuz like I mean, you can just share with anybody and then I mean, it just multiplies. They can go and talk to whoever they want to.
Yeah.
So I feel like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of sharing of testimonies like on posts and stuff like that, and I think that's really effective to reaching other people.
Totally.
And when we do that,
Mhm.
it can give others that have been shy the courage to do the same.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Mhm.
Yeah. I love that. Let's talk about the shadow side of this. I love Gen Z. I work with Gen Z. I am for Gen Z. This podcast is about highlighting the work that God's doing in Gen Z.
Right.
Every generation brings strengths to the table. We also bring weaknesses, and that's just part of it. My generation brings weaknesses to the table. Some of that is based on how we're raised. Some of that is based on life and environment. What are your thoughts on, as we speak to your generation, listening to this all across the country or the world, how would you encourage them maybe in a way today to say like, hey, we got to be careful of some things? Like, what are the weaknesses? What are the areas that we can get exposed in our faith or get tripped up or called out? Or maybe things that students just don't think about, like, oh, that was a temptation or a thing I got tripped up on
Yeah.
or slipped up on. How can we like bring those to the surface so that other students can be aware of those things so that they can be better? So what would you maybe say if you had to look at a weakness of your generation when it comes to faith and the gospel and the church community?
Well, I guess I'll go.
Yeah.
I say social media again though, because
Okay.
like
So
there's
it's
like
it's the strength and the
yeah,
weakness.
yeah, it's a really big weakness as well. But because well, I think it's a weakness because everybody, you can get this, but you can also get that. So it's
Mhm.
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I would say people in our generation care about what other people think a lot.
Mhm.
You know, like
Yeah.
they'll be like they'll try to spread the gospel, but at the same time they don't want other people to be like, oh, he's a Jesus freak. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's like an insecurity that's just attached to your stage of
Yeah.
life. Yeah, for sure.
That's what I was gonna say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To add to that, I feel like we overthink and we're just so
Mhm.
anxious about
Mm.
just like what if they don't like me based on what I say or like my opinions and stuff. And so I feel like it's not really about it's not about opinions, right? It's about the fact that you're sharing the gospel and that you're getting it out there.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
yeah.
And I think we're so wrapped up in all those things too that sometimes it's kind of hard even just to have like a face-to-face interaction with people,
Mhm.
and that becomes like even like kind of a task.
Yeah. Why is it hard to have a face-to-face interaction with someone?
Because when like you're on like a phone or something like that, like you don't have to like have those possible consequences of like someone judging you or someone
Mm.
like saying something hateful. Like you can just like be like, hey, I'm gonna block them. Like,
Yeah.
but like in real
Yeah.
life, you
You
can't
can
really
just-
do that.
That's true.
Can't
Can't really
block
block
in real
them.
life. Yeah, yeah. No, that's a great thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think it's easy, and it's a good thing, but it's easy to share our faith on social media and share our testimony and be this Christian online. But then in person, we can be different, and who we are doesn't always line up. So it's
Yeah.
still important to have that integrity and that consistency.
Yeah. Okay. I want to hear more about that. You talk about, or we've all talked about social media and the strengths, which there are many.
Mhm.
Also, I think we could all recognize, hey, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's blessings, there's curses that can come with it, and not just social media, other things as well. But you said something here like Christians can share about their faith on social media, and it's like easier to talk about faith there, and then you can get into real world scenarios, and it's not as easy. Tell me more about that. Like, is it that they're sharing things that aren't actually true about themselves? Like, oh, I am a Christian, I do my reading and my this and that, or is it just like there's not as much opportunity for yeah, people to like talk down about that? Yeah.
I think, yeah, there's less opportunity for people to talk down about that.
Mhm.
But also, I was just thinking like in the day-to-day life, like in person, you're put to the test and there are more eyes on you, and it's not always our automatic reaction to be loving in the moment, or
Yeah.
we can be saying things that don't sound very Christ-like. Or we're still not perfect. We can make
Mhm.
mistakes, and those are more noticeable to people. But on social media, we are giving people a look into our lives, but we're showing them highlights
Mm.
and like the good parts.
Mhm.
And again, not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's in person you're seeing more of the messy things,
Right.
and they can conflict sometimes.
Yeah. That's such a great thought. We're here to highlight strengths and weaknesses ultimately so that we can talk to students listening to this today about how they can recognize these things, look at the strengths, be say, hey, I can utilize that to share my testimony, to share the gospel, to be active in my faith. Also, these are some things I need to look out for when I'm trying to be a Christian and live in a world that's crazy at times and that can throw a lot of things at me, temptation, difficult circumstances, you name it. It's all around us, and it can be difficult in the moment, in those real world situations, to actually live out the thing that I say that I believe.
Mhm.
So now we want to help them see the strengths, the weaknesses, but then also I want to hear from your guys' perspective on a time where you have actually shared the gospel with someone, or a time where you posted something or had a conversation with someone about your faith. And maybe
Mhm.
it wasn't like going over the entirety of the story of the Bible.
Right.
Maybe it was just a little thing.
Yeah.
It could have just been a 60-second interaction. Because I think the challenge for a lot of teenagers is they believe in Jesus, they believe in the Bible, they may attend church or youth group, but man, when it comes to actually talking to someone about your faith, that's like a realm that
Yeah.
oftentimes doesn't
Yeah.
get explored or discovered. And I think that there's many times we've all felt that nudge. The Holy Spirit's like, this is maybe your moment, this conversation, or maybe
Yeah.
you got that person, right, that's
Yeah.
on the team or in second period with you that's just like, man, they don't know Jesus, they're close to me, but they're far from God. Like this person needs Jesus, but when like the moment happens, it's like, oh man, I wasn't prepared for that moment. And
Right.
so I think one of the greatest ways we can inspire other students to do it is them hearing stories of other people doing it. Just being like, oh, I can do this. Like I'm
Yeah.
not alone in this. Other people have done this, and it was okay. Like they came out of it on the other side, whether it went well or not. So I want to hear from you. Tell me about a time you shared the gospel or shared your faith with somebody, and what'd you learn from that experience and that encounter?
I guess I'll go.
Let's go.
So one of my friends was in a really, really low spot, and he had heard about God, and he like kind of knew about God, but was never really like a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one of my other friends was inviting him to church all the time, all the time, all the time, to the point where he was just almost annoyed. And he finally went, and I mean, my small group, we all just kind of talked to him, told him about the gospel. And I think 3 weeks or so later, he ended up giving his life to Christ.
Amazing.
And one thing that I learned about that is that obviously that's the goal, but sometimes that doesn't
Yeah.
always happen. And it's okay to not always have that happen, but that's just one of the plus sides of it is, you're able to change someone's life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an amazing story, man.
I had a friend that didn't believe Jesus at all, and I was inviting him to church and everything. And he ended up coming. He ended up coming to church like every Wednesdays, every Wednesday, every
Mhm.
Wednesday. And like I feel like he was getting closer, but then he was a senior at that time, and I was a junior. So after that year, he went off to college. So I don't know what happened to that. So I think that's an example of a time. Maybe it didn't work. Maybe it did. Because
Yeah.
I don't keep in contact with him anymore, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you never know how those seeds are
Yeah.
Yeah.
planted, man.
Mhm.
And like to Smith's point here, it's like, hey, sometimes the result of that
Mhm.
is you get to see like the fruit of your labor and
Yeah.
the partnership there with the Holy Spirit to like bring someone to knowledge of who Jesus is. And maybe you never get to see that.
Right.
I mean, like, that's even youth ministry and just
Right.
and life and discipling people is like, man, I'm out there planting seeds
You're
and
right.
talking about
Yeah.
the gospel, and sometimes I get to see it,
Yeah.
and sometimes I don't.
Right.
It may never happen, or maybe it happens and I don't know, like someone
Right.
else comes along later, 5 years later, and waters that seed, and then it
Mhm.
grows into something beautiful. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
So my story actually comes from like this past Saturday at
Oh,
regionals.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
a teammate of mine, we were about to go run the 400, and that's a really hard race. So I said to her before, I said, "Hey, God's got you." I didn't know she was a Christian or not. And then she ended up saying, and this is just really like something that really impacted me because it was just a really sweet thing, and it was like it really shows that taking that leap of faith is really good because then she was like, "Hey, I know." She said, "I know God's got us. Is it okay if I pray over you?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." And so then we took time praying over each other just for each other's success and for each other's just like courage and like strength through that race.
Mhm.
So we just took like the few moments before the race, like instead of like focusing on the worries and concerns and competing against each other, we just really focused on like God and like serving Him through this like run.
Yeah.
So,
What a
yeah.
beautiful moment.
Yeah.
So I was sitting in class one day, and one of my good friends, she knew I was a Christian, and I knew she wasn't. And I had invited her to church a couple times. She hadn't come. But one day I was just sitting in class. She was sitting behind me, and she noticed a shirt I was wearing that had part of a Bible verse on it. And she just genuinely started asking me all these questions, and she
Wow.
was really curious. And so I was super open and honest about what I believe, and my experiences and where I have messed up, and where I've made mistakes. And she just kept asking me more questions. And then a couple weeks later, she didn't come to my church, but she did go to a church.
Mhm.
And she hasn't given her life to Christ yet, but I'm believing that will happen. But I learned that I can get opportunities to share my faith out of the most simple things. It doesn't have to be a big, dramatic conversation. As
Yeah.
great as those
Mhm.
are, it can just be someone noticing how I'm living or what I'm wearing and me getting to be honest and share that.
That's crazy. You were probably not thinking like, I'm gonna put this T-shirt on, or whatever,
Yeah,
with has a
yeah.
Bible verse on it today, and that's
Yeah.
gonna lead to like a God moment, at
Mhm.
school. That's
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah, I work at Chick-fil-A. So I was serving somebody and I actually shared my faith with them.
Wow.
And he just gave his life to Christ about, I say, 3 weeks prior. He got baptized too. And he prayed over me, through the drive-through. And it
Wow.
was, yeah, it was really touching. Yeah, he prayed over me. And it just showed me, like, in that moment, just helped me realize, like, you're like, there are strangers around you, but like, they had battles in their life too,
Mhm.
like, and they
Absolutely.
need a community to lean on, And if you have that similarity of, knowing Jesus, it just makes it 10 times easier.
Mhm.
100%. And I feel like oftentimes for me, I'm always scared about, oh, I'm gonna share a little bit of my story or testimony or faith, but this person probably doesn't want to hear it. It's
Yeah.
like I always want to like talk myself out of it almost. And man, I feel like so many times it's like that. It's like, dude, that was actually the exact thing the person on the other side of this was like praying for or
Yeah.
searching for or looking for, was like this
Right.
interaction. You
Mhm.
never know what people in the drive-through, or like
Yeah.
at school or at the track meet or whatever are going through.
Mhm.
And when we step out in faith there, I don't know, man, I just feel like alive
Mhm.
Mhm.
in those
Absolutely.
moments. It's like hard to explain. And I don't know if you guys have experienced like when you have that conversation with somebody and you leave that conversation, you're walking with a little like pep in your
Yeah.
step
Mhm.
after that,
For
and
sure.
it makes you want to like have another one
Yeah.
Mhm.
and then like have another one because not just the feeling that it brings, but because you're like, dude, this is it right here.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
this is the thing that I was like made to do.
Yeah.
Um, as we talk about sharing the gospel with students and them being equipped to share it with others, sometimes a little pro tip or hack, or
Mhm.
something can change everything. Dude, I'm all for like the Instagram or TikTok, like just
Yeah.
the little hacks,
Yeah.
the little
Right.
Mhm.
life hacks. It's
Yeah.
like it could be about cleaning or
Mhm.
cooking or like
Mhm.
whatever. And it's like a little tip can just like change someone's life forever.
Right.
So we want to hear from you. What are some pro tips that you have when it comes to sharing the gospel? Maybe it's an actual conversation with the person, or maybe just a
Mhm.
mindset,
Yeah.
like shift that they can be in, or a perspective change. But when you think about like, okay, there's going to be a lot of different teenagers from all across America who listen to this. If I could just talk directly to them, here's what's helped me, or here's how to think about this, what would you say to them?
I would say as soon as you get that urge, don't even think about it and like
Mhm.
Mhm.
just do it,
Just go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Even if you're scared, just go for it,
that
for
is
sure.
simple but very powerful. Yes.
I would say don't think like, what if I mess up? What if I do this? And just like do, like Jacoby said. But more specifically, like if you feel like you're gonna mess up or like when you do mess up, it's not like that important. Like it's about the fact that you're getting the gospel out there and that you're
Yeah.
telling them about and you're just like planting seeds like you said.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Love it.
Mhm. Ironically enough, it can be like something as simple as like what Emerson like did, like wearing a Bible verse like
Mhm.
on her sweater. Like I've worn my like Switch leader hoodie before, and that's even brought like conversations to people
Mhm.
like, "Hey, like what's
Mm.
Switch?" And so then I just tell them about that, and
Yeah.
it's good.
To,
Amazing.
to add
Mhm.
on to him, like just the fact that just like going up to people sharing faith, like to you it might have been like, oh, like I messed up on that one time, but like to them, I really could have spoke to them,
Right.
Mhm.
God could
Yeah.
have really did that to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. We can get so in our heads about like,
Mhm.
Mhm.
I got to say it this exact way, or,
Right.
like,
Right.
oh, I messed up and it was out of order. It's like, dude, somebody on the other side of that is just
Yeah.
like, they don't know you. They don't know you messed up, or
Right.
like
Yeah.
didn't
Right.
say it the way you wanted to say it. They're just like, man, I'm really thinking about what he told me the other day.
Right.
And
Mhm.
man, I got more questions now, or like I
Yeah.
want to learn more about that. We could get so in our heads about the things that like just don't matter that much. Yeah.
I found that making it as personal as possible when sharing your faith helps.
Mhm.
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 Not that there's anything wrong with like the Sunday school version of the gospel. That's great. I've shared that before. But when you're sharing like the real things that
Mhm.
you've been
Yeah.
through, the questions you've had,
Yes.
that will be so much better.
Mhm.
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 I don't really have a tip. I mean, I go off with these two go. I just go for it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't think I have anything
Mhm.
else.
Yeah. I think that is a tip though, because like I don't know if I'm crazy in this, but a lot of times I'm at the gym. I'll be at the gym and I see someone and I'm like, I think I'm supposed to have a conversation with that person,
Mhm.
but they're on the other side of the gym. What happens between me walking from one end of the gym to the other is all the reasons why I shouldn't
Mhm.
go do it.
Mhm.
Mm.
Right? It's just like they don't want to hear about it. They look busy.
Mhm.
I don't want to interrupt them. What if I come across weird? Dude, I'm a youth pastor. What if I mess it up? I still
Right.
got that insecurity too,
Yeah.
you know? There's all these reasons about why I don't want to do it. And like, that is some of the most simple but serious advice. It's like, I think it, just like send it, man.
Yeah.
Just like,
Yeah.
just go for
For
it
sure.
and
Yeah.
do it. And to your point, it's just like the personal side of that is huge.
Right.
It's not like I'm just repeating to you like a robot, these
Mhm.
things that someone like downloaded into me. It's
Yeah.
like, I really live this. Like, I
Right.
really believe
Mhm.
it. I don't have it all figured out yet, but this is how Jesus has changed me. And I think it can happen for you too as well. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I want to close with like a final thought or question. And it's just, what is God doing in you right now? This was not in the notes. I understand that. But if you would able to be able to be a little vulnerable or just process some things out loud. We got some seniors here today, some
Mhm.
sophomores. I think one of the greatest encouraging things to a student could just be like hearing from another student
Yeah.
who's like walking through the same thing as
Yeah.
them, even if they're like 1,000 miles apart.
Right.
They could just be like, "Oh, I'm not alone."
Yeah.
Mhm.
What's God doing in you right now that you'd be willing to share with us, and how is it growing your faith?
I would say I feel called to get in the word more
Yeah.
just
Mhm.
'cause just reading the Bible just like there was a time for 2 weeks that I came home after a camp and I was just like on a camp high and I was like, I'm gonna
Oh,
get
yeah.
everything
Oh,
right.
yeah.
For sure.
I'm never gonna do anything wrong again.
Yeah.
And so yeah, just getting in the word.
Love it.
Yeah.
I'm learning. It's been a process, but I don't have to be past the valleys and past the struggles to still get to see um God's goodness
Mhm.
and even the smallest things that he just does in the day-to-day that have such an encouraging impact. And I don't have to be perfectly fine and healed and have grown so much to still be able to offer something and
Right.
bring something
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the table.
Beautiful.
I'm learning to not be a perfectionist.
Mm.
That's a
Okay.
serious issue.
Yeah, I think a lot of us deal with that.
And
Yeah.
I'm learning that it's actually in the imperfect that God's will is made perfect.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that's it's a huge thing right now in my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, yeah.
I think God is telling me and teaching me how to be patient, because I mean, lately, like, there's been a lot of struggles, not just in like my personal life, but just like in general,
Mhm.
and he's teaching me to just like be still. Psalm 46:10, like that's my favorite verse. Like, be
Yeah.
still and know that I'm God. Like,
Yeah.
I just gotta know and trust Him. Without my thoughts, I just gotta trust Him.
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't mean to steal your answer, but I'm gonna say patient too because I'm a student leader at my church on Wednesdays.
Mhm.
So I asked like we have a group, so it's like me and another friend and a whole bunch of little kids that we ask questions. So
Mhm.
we ask them questions. And it's like I don't know everything. So like when they come to me after, I'm like, I gotta be patient. I gotta be like, yeah, I don't know. Like, ask the bigger
Mhm.
person. But I know sometimes, but I don't know everything.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
guess. So I think he's just wanted me to be patient as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that.
That's a beautiful virtue to learn there. Guys, this is amazing.
Mhm.
I love this. I could sit here and do this all day.
Yeah.
I love you guys. I love your heart. You guys inspire me. Like I know that some students have learned something today by listening to this. I'm learning some things and getting better as a result of this. And so I just want to honor you. You represent an amazingly authentic and committed group of Christian teenagers that loves Jesus and is wanting to leverage the platform and the technology and the resources that are available to you to advance the kingdom. And I think that if more teenagers did that, the world would just be a different place.
Right.
And so I appreciate you guys for pioneering this
Yeah.
and for leading the way and for setting the tone and setting the example. I'm blessed because of it. I know many, many, many teenagers are going to be blessed because of it. So thank you. Thank you guys for doing this. Telos, we love you guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Peace.